I catfished a former boss to get paid. I used to work for a married couple, Billy M52 and GGF 44, who owned a business services/public relations agency. It lasted more or less for a year. They seemed nice and humble, but in reality, they were shady and untruthful. The company began to falter because of poor management and zero intention to prioritize. Billy was your baby-faced next-door neighbor type. He looked about 10 years younger and had a kind smile. He was soft-spoken and had an artistic and creative flair to him. Gigi looked matronly with a Mother Earth incarnate attitude towards her children. She prided herself on being ruthless when it came to giving her family only the best. She could be really nice when she wanted to, but I found out early on that she was 100% apt at gossip and being two-faced. The company's constant changes were a red flag. They went from business services PR agency to IT provider, to a business incubator, to indie beer partners. What I'm trying to say is that they tried to dip their donut on everyone's coffee. Figuratively. Some of us had no real way to escape. The lady working next to me was already 67 years old and scared that no one would hire her. I wasn't in a great place either. We were 8 employees in total. They wouldn't lay anyone off because they believed that the employees should quit. They paid us only a portion of our salaries in complete weekly payments. Employees would run for the hills once they found a better job. Some of us were stuck. It was horrible. Then, they would pay the normal rate for a month and then do it again. They never cut down on their luxury expenses, so the wife would post her shopping sprees or arrive in a new car like it was nothing. Zero empathy. Very insensitive. The husband was obsessed with making it big time. So much, that he sometimes failed to see an opportunity right in front of him. He said he was Coca-Cola's brand manager. I swear I looked it up and could never find any reference. Gigi had a display full of small local magazines mostly about design and architecture. They were very proud to be a team member, but in reality, they just helped them print 2 issues. They wanted big business only, but in the meantime, looked down upon tangible potential clients. Like the young Latino couple who showed up trying to learn more about their services. They seemed lost because they wanted someone to help them set up a coffee business, and had no idea how it was done. I talked to them and helped them into the waiting room. They even showed up with their baby in a stroller. That means they must have driven by and decided to come in. An impulsive client should be retained. The guy said his grandpa had a farm and he wanted to create an import/exports company. Once Billy showed up, he listened for a bit, then kind of gave them a kind of an abrupt dismissal. That was a dick move because that couple opened their own business with someone else and even have a FB page. It could have been Billy. Billy lined his office walls with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. His wife, the chief enabling officer, put up signs on each room. The main employee area was the machine room. Billy's office was the chamber. The conference room was a meeting of the minds. Every time an employee disagreed with Billy during a brainstorming session, Gigi would call them aside and tell them that Billy is your boss. You need to know that he is brilliant and a genius. I want him to have that taste of success. I experienced that firsthand. I also hated brainstorming because that was never on my job description. They just wanted to pick everyone's brains. In the meantime, we had to see the Pandora jewelry, the expensive makeovers for their daughters, and the weekend at the spa updates on FB. Gigi's captions were usually about rewarding herself after a hard week or because she deserved it. Oh, and I'd like to mention that they bought into the social guru phrases about emotional direction. So if an employee ever got angry, Gigi would tell you, remember, the one who gets angry is the one who ends up losing. For anyone who's been in this situation, you may understand how painful it can be. You cannot leave the job because you have no other job waiting for you. And pathetic as it may sound to some income is better than no income at all. This is an involuntary compromise and it's abusive. Why were we expected to pay for their luxuries via incomplete wages? My best friend's ex is into coding and programming and he agreed to help. If it didn't work out, at least we would have something to laugh about. We created a kick-ass fake website with a matching LinkedIn and the whole 9 yards. To make a long story short, this was supposed to be an investment company and my friend would be very casual. Nothing too eager. He started by liking my employer's FB page. Then comment. Before we knew, my boss took the bait and was engaging. They exchanged emails and he was eager to share all his projects and ambitious speep. On the other side, the investor sent him a list of requirements, like proof of concept, employer payroll, EIN, etc. The investor agreed to work them if they could prove they were legit and up to date. No bank account of confidential info was asked. Within 3 weeks, I was paid the equivalent to the 2 months and a half I was owed. The investor did an about-face and never contacted him again. I left the job as soon as I could. My friend who remained until she got paid told me our boss seemed off and a bit down after he announced big things are coming, but it all seemed to deflate. I never disclosed what was really going on. Undefined. Honestly thought op was gonna catfish the boss on Tinder and blackmail him instead lol, but nicely done. The business version of catfishing lol. Some people may say this isn't pro-revenge, but beautifully executed no doubt anyway and defined. I'm usually in the not pro-revenge camp, but in this case I've got to give it to them. They got the boss to pay his employees money owed to them. That's usually in the impossible/expensive category. But this was done on the cheap. Bravo. It's literally forcing someone in a professional setting to perform their professional duties. The only way it wouldn't be pro-revenge is that there isn't really any vengeance. It's merely restoring what should have been the normal order. The revenge part may be in letting the boss think that a big opportunity was coming. Nothing more vicious than raising one's hope before dashing them expertly. Oh, I love this. Thanks for sharing your story. He lined his office walls with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. My best friend's ex is into coding and programming and he agreed to help. There seems to be some missing information between these 2 points in your story. Lamau Trui. Sounds like an overly complicated way to get your money when you could have just filed a wage complaint with the government. Learning to code and then catfishing your boss over several weeks is probably faster than dealing with the government. Not sure if sarcastic or not, but either way that's a boring dystopia. I think I read this revenge before with more details. I'm not sure, but it's very familiar and wasn't this summarized. It's just poorly written and leaves out important information. Can this be elaborated on how you were paid? You created a fake investment company, bait the boss that you're thinking about investing in the boss, and somehow you got paid by retrieving his payroll info? Can someone explain in detail? I took it as asking for all this info. The boss had to make sure his finances and payroll were in line, so he quickly paid all the staff the money they were owed, so when he sent over the paperwork it was all good. Investment company then ghosted boss. The actual payroll info retrieval was not how he got paid, but because the payroll had to look good he had to get paid. Correct. Your story could profit from being to be a bit more explicit about the bad boss brought his books back up to legal standards so that he could show them to the investor. But apart from that, I feel it's a good, well-presented story. Were they in San Diego? Sounds like my old boss. With paragraphs. I catfished a former boss to get paid. I used to work for a married couple who owned a business services/public relations agency. It lasted more or less for a year. They seemed nice and humble, but in reality they were shady and untruthful. The company began to falter. They paid us only a portion of our salaries in complete weekly payments. Employees would run for the hills once they found a better job. Some of us were stuck. It was horrible. Then, they would pay the normal rate for a month and then do it again. They never cut down on their luxury expenses, so the wife would post her shopping sprees or arrive in a new car like it was nothing. The husband was obsessed with making it big time. He lined his office walls with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. My best friend's ex is into coding and programming and he agreed to help. If it didn't work out, at least we would have something to laugh about. We created a kick-ass fake website with a matching LinkedIn and the whole 9 yards. To make a long story short, this was supposed to be an investment company and my friend would be very casual. Nothing too eager. He started by liking my employer's FB page. Then comment. Before we knew, my boss took the bait. They exchanged emails and he was eager to share all his projects and ambitious speep. On the other side, the investor sent him a list of requirements, like proof of concept, employer payroll, EIN, etc. Within 3 weeks, I was paid the equivalent to the 2 months and a half I was owed. The investor did a face out and never contacted him again. I left the job as soon as I could. My friend who remained until she got paid told me our boss seemed off and a bit down after he announced big things are coming, but it all seemed to deflate. I never disclosed what was really going on. Undefined. Nicely done. I know the feeling. The kind of treatment you were handed at the hands of a selfish ex-boss. I'm glad you got out of it scot-free. Maybe one day, I'll write up the story of how I ducked a terrible ex-boss who used legal threats to bury anyone and we managed to show him the finger at his own game. I would love to hear it. Can you let me know when you post it? It's always good to know you're not alone. Definitely will. It'll probably be a long-ass story. But will be worth it, I'm sure. Awesome. I don't understand the story at length. That theory are no paragraph breaks isn't helping. TL, Dr. Not Op, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry in advance. Worked for a business owned by a couple who were always flaunting their wealth and making sure that the employees knew who was in charge while not paying full wages every week. Contacted a former acquaintance that did web development who made a fake business, contacted the employer and said he would only do business if he could prove they were legit, so the boss paid and then never contacted him again about the business deal. Correct. They never cut down on their luxury expenses, so the wife would post her shopping sprees or arrive in a new car like it was nothing. I had a boss like that once. Would brag about their new 3K bet and NFL season tickets in the same conversation where he was telling us payroll was delayed again. When I left, we were getting paid almost 4 weeks behind, despite only having 1 week pay periods. Fresh. Just fresh and a crook. I like this story. Well played, Op. Brava. This is ProRevenge. For those confused, because I still might be. The investor told the boss he has to be up to date, and since the boss wanted the investment, all the money he owed to his employees, he paid to the employees directly, so that he could prove to the investor he was up to date. The boss did not transfer money to the investor. Op, is this correct? Lol. Yes, correct. I'm struggling to make this clear. Lol. That's some smart speep you pulled off, and it wasn't even really evil. Billy is your boss. You need to know that he is brilliant and a genius. I want him to have that taste of success. Yikes, hard to believe that these crazies breathe the same air as other people. Top 5 worst written posts on here. Isn't this just fraud? Undefined. That said, I read this post to mean that Op had already left the company before their plot was put into effect. I see now that that might not be the case. That doesn't however make what Op and friend did to be any less fraudulent. Committing a crime, i.e. obtaining privileged information through criminal and unethical means in an effort to obtain what was legally due to them, does not negate their original crime. No matter how justice bonery it is, Op and friend used a fake company, with fake credentials, identities, and social media presence to obtain privileged and confidential information. End of story. They got payroll info from this man, which could mean SSNs, bank account numbers, employee names and addresses. They also could have obtained the company's account numbers, which when used in conjunction with payroll and the IN could be used to do countless nefarious things. It doesn't matter that Op isn't going to use it. The issue is that it was acquired under fraudulent pretenses. The employer would have a very good civil suit against them, and they could most certainly face criminal charges if a prosecutor was so inclined. If Op wanted to get what was owed, they should have taken him to court. If what Op claimed was on the up and up, they would have won that case easily and recouped pay then. You can stop commenting now. I've turned off inbox replies, so telling me I'm wrong is pointless as well as factually incorrect. The way I read it was they asked for proof of these things and the employer paid up so he could show the proof. I'm not sure how that is fraud. Right. It says the information was requested. Doesn't say it was received.